You know, compassion is one of those things everybody thinks they understand. But once you start pulling at the threads, it gets a lot more interesting. People often think it's just about being nice, polite, or soft-hearted. But the science and the wisdom traditions that study compassion show it's something far more powerful. At its core, compassion is the feeling you get when you notice someone else is struggling. And you don't just stop at noticing, you feel moved and you actually want to help. That combination, awareness, emotional connection, and the drive to act, is what makes compassion unique. Researchers have been trying to understand what's happening in the brain and body when we feel compassion. Neuroscience shows that when we witness suffering and respond with care, certain regions of the brain light up. The anterior cingulate cortex and the insula, areas linked to empathy and emotional regulation. And here's the fascinating part. When you practice compassion regularly, those pathways strengthen. Just like building a muscle, you're literally reshaping your brain to be more attuned to others. But it's not just a feel-good skill. Compassion has measurable effects on the body. It lowers cortisol, the main stress hormone. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part responsible for rest, recovery, and healing. Heart rate slows, blood pressure drops, the immune system strengthens. It's the opposite of fight or flight. People sometimes confuse compassion with pity or sympathy, but pity creates distance. It puts you above someone else. Sympathy feels for someone, but not necessarily with them. Compassion is different. It's grounded in the recognition that suffering is part of the human condition. It connects us saying, "This pain you feel, I've felt something like it too." That shared recognition is what makes compassion so powerful, both personally and socially. Compassion doesn't stop at one-on-one relationships. It shapes entire systems, schools, workplaces, even governments. Programs that teach compassion in schools reduce bullying and increase cooperation. Leaders who act from compassion, not just authority, create trust and better performance. But compassion isn't infinite. Caregivers, parents, doctors, they can burn out. That's what psychologists call compassion fatigue. It's why self-compassion is so important. Kristin Neff breaks it down into 3 parts. Self-kindness instead of harsh self-criticism, recognizing our common humanity, and mindfulness. To hold pain without exaggerating it. Studies show that people who practice self-compassion recover faster from failure, feel less anxious, and are more resilient. Healthcare workers trained in compassion meditation report lower burnout. It's not about indulgence. It's about giving yourself the same understanding you'd give a friend. Compassion also has deep roots in spiritual traditions. In Buddhism, it's called karuna, compassion for all beings as a path to awakening. In Christianity, it's love in action, expressed through forgiveness and service. Indigenous traditions teach compassion as a duty to others, the land, and future generations. Across cultures, compassion is seen as a cornerstone of human flourishing. Modern psychology is catching up. Paul Gilbert's compassion-focused therapy helps people struggling with shame and self-criticism. Instead of just analyzing thoughts, it trains the heart, literally, to feel warmth and care. Compassion meditation, or loving kindness meditation, also shows measurable brain changes. A few minutes of silently repeating phrases like, "May you be happy, may you be safe," can increase empathy, generosity, and emotional balance. Even physical health benefits. Older adults who volunteer regularly, compassion in action, live longer, healthier lives. Studies show reduced inflammation and stronger immune responses in those who practice compassion. So why don't we practice it more often? Partly because of fear of vulnerability. Opening yourself to another's suffering can feel overwhelming. And culturally, we often celebrate competition and independence over connection. But research tells a different story. Compassionate leaders aren't weak. They're more effective, more respected, and more trusted. Compassion isn't the opposite of strength. It's the deepest form of it. Another misconception is that compassion requires grand gestures. In truth, small acts matter most. A listening ear, a kind word, a moment of presence. These trigger oxytocin, the bonding hormone, reducing fear and deepening trust. Compassion builds connection, and connection makes compassion easier. There's even an economic side. In healthcare, compassionate communication leads to faster recovery and lower costs. In workplaces, it reduces burnout and boosts engagement. Compassion, it turns out, isn't just moral, it's practical. But it's not about fixing everything. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is simply be there. Not to solve, not to dismiss, just to be present. That presence, that willingness to stand with someone, is its own kind of healing. When you zoom out, compassion is everywhere. In science labs, monasteries, hospitals, classrooms, and boardrooms. It's not a luxury, it's not extra. It's an essential human capacity, one that shapes our health, our communities, and our collective future. We're wired for it. We thrive on it. And when we practice it consciously, we transform both ourselves and the world around us. At the end of the day, compassion isn't about perfection. It's about showing up with an open heart, recognizing our shared humanity, and letting that guide how we respond to suffering in ourselves and in others. That's the truth that keeps resurfacing in science, in wisdom traditions, and in the lives of ordinary people who choose to live with compassion at the center. All right, that's it for this one. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you next time.